Rates continue to trend downward. Leaders and real estate agents predict more homeowners will be motivated to sell and buy new homes. As KLTV7's Lauren Tier reports, an expected cut in the federal interest rate would also reduce mortgage rates.
According to Freddie Mac, the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is just under 6.5% on a national scale, the lowest it's been in 15 months. 2 years ago, due to the pandemic and inflation, rates had been at a 40-year high. As of now, East Texas realtors and lenders say the national rates are consistent with the rates in East Texas. But what does that mean for the local housing market?
I feel like once people started speaking about rates going down, even the slightest decline starts bringing more buyers into our market. And it allows sellers to feel more comfortable listing their home because they know they can go purchase something else.
Mortgage loan originator Amber Bolden believes the predicted lower rates will also motivate sellers who were concerned about locking in on a new home.
Even the smallest rate decrease can increase their purchase power.
Earlier today, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell signaled that an interest rate cut could be coming next month.
The time has come for policy to adjust. The direction of travel is clear, and the timing and pace of rate cuts will depend on incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks.
This is kind of the wording that we've been waiting for.
But Bolden is advising clients not to wait until September 18th when the Fed will have a policy meeting and possibly cut rates.
This is the perfect time where there's not as much competition.
Referring to the fact that the lower rates will inevitably drive up demand and competition for houses. Realtor Shannon Franzen is giving her clients similar advice.
You might be able to find that house, get it under contract, and then, lock your rate later. That's something you could talk to your lender about.
According to the National Association of Realtors, home sales increased by 1.3% in July. Lauren Tier, KLTV 7 News.